Hi everyone, Jane here. Thank you so much for watching today and welcome to you all. Today I'm going to be working in this Dylusions mixed media art journal. It's the smaller version and it's a portrait shape, if that's the word. Portrait layout, I guess it should be called. And I wanted to have a play around with my gouache paints from Holbein today. So I decided to pick out a rainbow of colours. So I won't list all the colours in the description box because obviously if you was doing a project you would choose whatever colours you want, but I will, as always, list the products generally used within this project so that you can look them up for your area if you want to. So I only recently bought this set of gouache paints and the idea is that eventually they will go into a palette to go out and about with me as well. But whilst I'm not doing that, I'm just putting a little bit into that ceramic palette to the side of me. Now this is one from Meeden. I believe I bought it through Amazon. And I chose it because it has nice big wells, including those two really big wells. And what I do is that if I do use it and then I have paint left over, either watercolour or gouache, then I will leave it to dry in the palette and then use it whilst it's on my desk at another time. So I taped off the edges of my pages because I did want to have a little bit of a border going round, and I wasn't really overly thinking what I wanted to do. Now often I will make a background using squares or circles, and I often do use a stencil, but today I thought I'd go a bit more freehand, a bit more free and easy. I'm sort of trying to go round the rainbow but that sort of disappears after a while. I did think I would go thinking about it, I should have probably gone across the page to start with and then we'll work my way down. But I sort of started on the left hand side with the first sort of the red, orange, yellow sort of colours, and then I went on to the right hand side and I wasn't overly keen on how that looked, so I did change it a bit. So I was going to be painting just squares or rectangles, and then I decided to build in some lines as well, and then I decided rather than just having blocks of single colours, I would like to mix the colours up a bit, and I would also like to go over different shapes to sort of just make things a little bit different. As I was doing this, I did realise that at times I was adding quite a lot of water to this gouache. Now, one of the things about gouache is it is very opaque and you get a nice thick sort of matte finish to it where you could don't really see through it. But I was adding quite a lot of water, which obviously dilutes the colour and makes it become more transparent. So I did realise I was doing that after a while, and I do believe that after I finish, I'll go back over with some of them with some more of the colour just to darken it up a little bit again, to be more as I was intended in the first place. So as you can see that I really had added a lot of water and I have made it more like a watercolour. Now that's not a problem. It actually means that you can get some really good effects with gouache. So as well as using them in that thicker, more opaque way, you can water them down and get more of a watercolory look. But in this particular case I did want quite a sort of solid looking background, so I just carried on with this until I was happy with how the whole pages were looking. once I was happy with how the background was looking, I decided to go in with one of my favourite sorts of patterns, which is to make a more of like a patchwork in the background. So I'm going around with my Posca pen. I can't remember, I think it's the 1M. If it's not the 1M, it'll be the 3M, and it's the black pen. And I wanted something quite bold for this background. And the shapes were very irregular, so I'm just going around them the best I can. I'm adding in dots, I'm adding in lines, dashes, and just going around until it looks as I want it to. I was happier with how this background was starting to look once I'd added those lines and patterns around the blocks of colour, but I did feel now it was a little bit too much for me and I wanted to knock it back slightly. I felt it had quite a funky graffiti-ish look, and so I decided to go with this D'Inkable from Be Crafty, who are based in the UK. It's a little stencil and it's like letters and numbers, and I thought it sort of went with that graffiti look. And in a way, it was slightly reminding me of a bit of a maybe a brick wall or something like that, a very colourful, funky one, but one that brick wall that had been spray painted with some different words and numbers. So I'm just going in with my stencil brush and the titanium white paint from Amsterdam, which is an acrylic paint. Then I wanted to add some funky collage. So I was using the Dylusions book, so I thought that the Dylusions Collage would be quite good to use. I don't know if these sheets are made anymore, so these are just pieces that I've cut from some of the Dylusions Collage sheets. Diane Reevely made them a few years ago with Ranger. That's when I bought them, because the Dylusions journals and collage were some of the first things I ever bought to do art journaling with. And once I took the tape off, I did decide to add a little bit around the border with my pen again. This paper did rip a little bit, it took off the surface slightly when I removed the tape. I hadn't overly heated it, but because it's in my art journal, I wasn't too worried. So I'd cut out a couple of images, which I then attached to my page with the Liquitex matte medium, professional. I had to think about that for a second. And I was going to say something, and then I got distracted and I've forgotten what it was I was going to say now, but I'm sticking them onto the page because that was it, I think. Because it's got that sort of funky background, I felt it needed some funky collage, and Dylusions Collage is definitely that. I'd also chosen a sentiment from the bigger Backchat set that Diane Reevely brought out. They're quite snarky, sarcastic sayings, which are quite good fun if you like that kind of thing. And I did realise that actually where some of the gouache was very thick, it did move a little bit. So I tried to sort of style it out by putting a few different areas around the edges, but I didn't overly like how that looked, so I decided that adding in a bit of stamping with my Make a Mark stamp set and the archival ink would just help to make it a part of the design. And that's what I tend to do. I never worry about telling you if I'm making mistakes or not, because to be honest, I just incorporate everything as part of art journaling. If I'm in my own art journals, it's not to be, a gallery piece. So if I do something that doesn't turn out like I wanted, I just adapt and add something else over the top, or I make it part of the design. So I don't often make much of a point of saying that I'm doing that, but that's how I get around these things. I'm not going to, not like the whole page just because a little bit of paint smeared. To me, it's all just a part of the process, and it, you know, it's makes it very, very unique. So I decided to, talking about making things unique, to add a little bit more to the collage to make it more my own. I'm going in with some acrylic paint pens. So the pen I'm using here is the Copic Acrea, which is the black one, and I've also got the Posca white pen. It is more than likely the 1M. The 1M is my favourite, I have to admit. Occasionally I do use the 3M, which is a slightly thicker nib, but the 1M is the one that I use the most often. I have tried the even thinner one, I think it's the 1MR, but I didn't overly like that one. I found I couldn't get very good marks with that, but I do, so for a fine acrylic marker, I do actually prefer the Copic Acreas. So I'm just going in and just adding little bits wherever I feel it is necessary. And then, just because it is a quite funky, fun graffiti-ish page, I decided to just do some splatters with my pen as well. And of course, I suddenly realised she was sort of slightly floating a little bit there, so I had to add some floor to ground her. So this is the final project on this double page spread. If you have enjoyed this video, do please give it a thumbs up and a hype if you see that hype button. And if you haven't already subscribed, I'd love it if you could do that as well. And at the end of the video, you will see a list of all my lovely super supporters, my YouTube members, who give me a little bit of extra support, and an extra big thank you to them as well. So until the next time, thank you ever so much for watching, and bye bye.